So now let's look at Daniel chapter 12, or what I've subtitled the time of trouble. And that, again, brings all this to an end. It says, "At that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which stands for the children of thy people." Now, what time is that? Remember, in verse 45 of Daniel 11, it says that the king of the north would set his tabernacles up between the people in the holy mountain. So it's at the time when the king of the north reinserts himself in the place of the Most High God. Okay, so at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince which stands for the children of thy people, and they shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time, and at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book. And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. Now we're dealing with the resurrection. So, we have when this king of the north sets up his tabernacle between the people in the holy mountain, that is what Revelation refers to as the enforcement of the mark of the beast. It's during that time, or at that time, that Michael shall stand up. It's time to now render judgment against this little horn power who was making war against the saints of the Most High God. And this happens leading up to the second coming of the Most High, second coming of Christ, and the resurrection of his people. Verse 3, "And they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament, and they that turn many to righteousness as the stars forever and ever. But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased." And that's where we are now. A lot of people, are awakening to the truth that's going on. And when it says many shall run to and fro, it's referring to running to and fro in Scripture and revealing the truth that's in Scripture. It's not just running around, but it's digging into the Word and becoming more and more knowledgeable in the truth that's in this Word. So now let's start to bring this all together again. The Scripture of truth, it details the prophecy until the return of the Messiah. And let's look at this in our chart that we've been building. We see in Daniel's second vision, the explanation is given with regards to the king of the Scripture of truth. We see that 4 kings would arise out of the Media Persia, then a mighty king, or Alexander, would arise, and then 4 winds would come after him. We again see these 4 kings, Cambyses, Smerdis, Darius, and Xerxes. And the 4 winds, or this number 4 that keeps coming up with reference to Greece, the emperors that took over, or his generals that took over after his death, Cassander, Lysimachus, Seleucus, and Ptolemy. And then, of course, you had the temporal rule of Alexander's family. And just continuing on in chapter 11 now, we had the king of the south, which was a Ptolemies, and the king of the north, which started out geographically as the Seleucids, but would advance and become part of this whole timeline of events with regard to the king of the north. Again, I have invaders, robbers. This is language from the New International Version when I first put this together in 2009. But then the king of the north becomes this spiritual entity. Again, we saw earlier in this study that he would cast the truth to the ground, make war with the saints, put himself in place of God, the Most High God, and so forth, until judgment would take place in favor of the saints. So this all connects. It's all part of the same timeline. It's all one continual prophecy, if you will. And again, we have the Hazon, the Scripture of truth, and we're given the starting point to that Scripture of truth in 457. So from 457 to 1844 is a 2300-year prophecy. After 2300 years, that's when the sanctuary would be cleansed. That's when the people of the Most High God would run to and fro in Scripture and allow the Spirit to work in them to produce the 144,000 that will bring this whole thing, help bring this whole thing to a close. So what we see in all of this is that it's one prophetic timeline told from different perspectives. There's no room in this for Russia or for North Korea, United States. There's no room in here for Antiochus Epiphanes, whatever it was, to be the Antichrist because he sacrificed a pig on the altar in the sanctuary. All of that is misdirection. It's deception. It's misleading you away from the truth. And I challenge you to take this and study it, not just from the Bible, but look at history, and you can see how all these things have unfolded. This is just a snapshot, if you will, as to the content and the information that's out there. And this wasn't intended to be an all-encompassing study to give you everything. Again, it was just designed to be a guide so that as you're studying this on your own, you can make sense of the things you're reading and not fall into the trap of deception by these people who want your money. All right, so I did a video on this chart right here. Again, you can download all this. But the book of Daniel essentially covers, again, we looked at, Babylon, Greece, Medo-Persia, or Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, Imperial Rome, spiritual Rome, the spiritual king of the south where we're living now. And, next we're going to, next up in this prophetic timeline is this false prophet. I believe we're living here now. What's happening, what's going to come next is here. But it's the book of Revelation that adds a lot of color and clarity for the rest of this. And that's what, by the grace of the Most High, we'll be looking at next, so that we can form a complete picture with regard to understanding the books of Daniel and Revelation. Now, I want to close this study with a quote from someone that was instrumental in the church I used to belong to. I don't give this person as much deference as some might. Some put this person's work on par with Scripture. I don't. But I've quoted other people in this study, in this video. And I want to end this video with a quote from another person. And I know as soon as the picture comes up, people are going to accuse me of all sorts of things. But again, Scripture says, "Prove all things, hold fast that which is good." This quote comes with regard to understanding the books of Daniel and Revelation. It says, "When the books of Daniel and Revelation are better understood, believers will have an entirely different religious experience. They will be given such glimpses of the open gates of heaven that heart and mind will be impressed with the character that all must develop in order to realize the blessedness which is to be the reward of the pure in heart." And going all the way back to the beginning of the study, when we looked at chapters 3 through 6, we saw the importance of character when we looked at typology of character. And we saw that the character of Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah, Nebuchadnezzar after his conversion, acknowledging the Creator, being obedient to the Creator, those are the characters that we must possess in the latter days, in the end times, in the last days. And in reading these books, it's not just, as this same author even put, not just an intellectual assent to the truth, but it should be reading these words, studying this information, and submitting ourselves to the Most High should develop the characters that we need to represent Him in the latter days.